Yes, sir. Welcome back to Real Spit with Spitty. And let's get right into it with this next topic. All right, so this like that time of the year. A lot of folks graduating right now. Congrats to all the grads. Everybody who have pushed through and made these accomplishments. And so I want to talk about, my college experience and just, how that helped to, shape and mold me and, just the importance of going to college. And this isn't to preach, to people to go to college. And I don't believe that college is the only method of, gaining success. But I definitely feel like college is a great place to gain structure, a great place to find your independence. For a lot of us, college was where we became men, where we became women, having the experience of, living on your own, having to budget money, having to, coordinate a schedule between classes, work, and a social life, which is like some of the first steps into adulthood. So definitely wanted to, tap into the subject and, talk about it. I went to University of Minnesota. Y'all know I'm from Milwaukee. I'm always talking about 22nd and Townsend. Shout out to my hood. And, my big reason why I left home and went to college, honestly, was because I had a fear that if I stayed in Milwaukee that I would die. I felt like if I stayed in my neighborhood where I was from any longer than the age of 17, that I would get killed, that I would, be a victim of some senseless violence or, or just get caught up in some bullshit, you know what I mean? Because honestly, that was just all that was around me. Um, I even, during my breaks of when I was going to school, I would barely go home just because the city was so dangerous. And I was always going out to LA. I was really pursuing like getting into the music industry, pursuing journalism, and all of that. And I met a plug in LA, not the type of plug y'all thinking about. Shout out to my boy Biko. But I met my mentor, Rob Biko Baker, who's from the mill and wrote for the source and lived in LA. And when I got that first opportunity to go and visit LA, I took it. I never went to Cancun with my partners. I never went on like none of the trips or did none of the stuff that, my partners even in college was doing. I was just going out to LA and soaking up game and trying to get as much experience as I can. As a matter of fact, after my first visit to LA, I told my moms that I was gonna move to LA when I was done with school. I knew I was gonna live there. And I changed my phone number to a LA phone number. So the phone number that I got to this day was the first number that I changed it to. And that was a huge part of my manifestation. And me knowing that I was gonna live in LA. And two, um, I knew that people wouldn't answer a Wisconsin phone number when I was calling them trying to do business. But you see that 310 number, you see a LA number, you might pick up. You might take a chance on that call. So for me, that was just a huge step in me thinking that I had some game and, trying to, get in where I fit in for real. Um, now college was a place that helped me to, gain discipline. Um, like I said, like just having to just manage a schedule and all that. But I ain't gonna lie, my first year of college, I was on some fly shit, man. I met some homies and we formed a group, not like a rap group. We formed like a student organization slash production company, and we was throwing parties. We was throwing events. That was my first year of college. Like I was, trying to be the man on campus. Me and my boys had this organization called Fife, and shout out to everybody that was a part of that. Y'all know who y'all are. But we was throwing some of the hottest parties up there at University of Minnesota, even to the point to where the NCAA tournament came during that year, and we got hired to throw all of the parties for the NCAA tournament. I'm gonna age myself with this one too, but back when Most Def dropped Miss Fat Booty and had his album damn, well, I'm losing the name of that album right now. My fault. But when he had that song Miss Fat Booty, he had that album. We actually booked Mos Def in Minnesota. That was his first time ever coming up there. So that was something, me, being a party promoter, show promoter, all of that. Um, college was where I was really able to like find myself and learn and gain access to a lot of different things in terms of the entertainment industry, the music industry, because that was something that I just knew that I wanted to do from early. So as soon as I got up there to Minneapolis, which had like a really dope hip hop scene up there, with like the Rhyme Sayers label. I remember my guy Tim had the and has the store Urban Lights. Shout out to Tim. He was somebody who was really integral in me just building and learning, about the industry in those early years. I just went, just all gas, no brakes with it. Got on the radio station. Shout out to KFAI. Did a radio show with DJ Special Dark. And then that was where, I was able to meet a lot of different like local artists in the city. And then too, when different artists would come into the city, like Trillville and a bunch of other artists that would come into the city, they would come over to the station and I would interview them, or I remember, having to make like clean edits of songs and like learning how to, use all the like different editing programs and stuff like that just to make myself savvy, within the industry and all of that. So for me, college was a great place for me to network and build my net worth at an early age. Like I said, I started an organization with my partners throwing parties. We created an LLC. And then on the college side, we created a nonprofit organization. So we were getting funding from the school. And then we were also in the city making money from throwing events and, all of that. So now, going to class was a different story. That first year, like I said, I was all into just trying to dive into the entertainment industry, like thinking that that was everything. But then when I failed out of school, had to write all these letters so that I could like get back in, and I was doing computer science when I first got in, so and it was killing me. So all that calculus, physics, like, oh man, that shit was killing me. I realized because I always had a love for computer, a love for tech. So, I thought that computer science was what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to be a coder my whole life. So I took a bunch of coding classes, learned a lot of that. And since I knew how to build computers and I knew how to build websites and all of that back then, I just used that and was making money on the side, building people computers and selling Jordans and throwbacks and just doing every hustle in the book, so that I could continue to network and continue to grow like who I was, what I mean, as a man, as a hustler, as, as this college student trying to transition into what I'm doing now, which is crazy because I always wanted to do this, but I never knew what hustle that I was doing, or what, when I was out late at concerts, or when I was, what I mean, writing, trying to write for the school newspaper and things like that. I never knew like what was gonna get me, to where I'm at. But I just did everything and dove into everything. And my point with that is, in life outside of college, you can experiment and tap into a lot of different things. But for me, college was a great place for me to just network and meet so many good people and experiment. And, I remember my guy Mark was the Def Jam rep back then. So he would, bring us records. And I remember telling him like how I aspired to work at Def Jam and I wanted to do that my whole life, and was asking him to connect dots with me with people and, all of that. So when I finally buckled down and got everything on point with school was, when I decided to change my major to economics with a marketing emphasis. I was thankful that I did that, because then that helped me to understand like how money works, just understand how to make Excel sheets and do like P&L sheets and, different things like that. So I was able to learn the business side of things. I was a tech head, a music head. And so then understanding money, marketing, I've always just had a knack for marketing, just ideas and things like that. I was able to put all of that together and, continue to build from that. I had a lot of great resources in school. I remember the African American Learning Resource Center. Shout out to Cedric Bolton. He was a great mentor to me and somebody who helped me, along my journey. Shout out to Lachelle Drake, who was, when I was doing engineering, she was a part of the Apex's office, which was like this organization dealing with math and sciences and, all of that. But even when I got out of engineering, she gave me a job like building their website, working on the website, and allowed me to make money while she saw like I was pursuing like interning for the Source magazine and doing just all these odds and ends types of jobs and hustles and things like that, just trying to get on. College also for me allowed me to, phones on silent. College also allowed me to understand more about finances, and not just from the classes I was taking, but just being a broke college student, you know what I'm saying? And really having to budget money, you know what I mean? Like I grew up on Section 8 and food stamps and government cheese, and that's real. Going to college, I remember getting like financial aid and all of that and getting my refund check. And I'd have like $1,000, $1,500 or something. And man, I remember my first year, man, I spent all that money on shoes and on bullshit, and then was broke and then spent all my little meal plan or whatever. And mom's like, yeah, I ain't got nothing to send you. So you're going to have to, fend for yourself. And thank God I was a hustler. I had a Chinese connect where I was getting, and real China connect for real, where I was getting throwback Mitchell and Ness throwback jerseys and sneakers. Like anybody who know me from Minnesota in them years know that I was, I was selling them Kareem Abdul-Jabbar jerseys and all types of shit. But that was one of my hustles. I had to figure out like how to be financially stable while I was up there, and just, having credit card debt and all of that, because they send college students 1 million credit cards in the mail. So I was opening them joints and getting money, thinking it's free money. Like, shit, these folks gonna give me $500. They're gonna give me $1,500 credit card. Bet, I'll take it. You know what I'm saying? But I had to learn from that. It helped me to grow to where when I got out of college, I felt like I was so prepared for the world when I got out. And also, it wasn't just about going to classes. Like, as y'all can hear, I'm barely talking about classes. I'm talking about most of the experiences that was happening around campus and on campus, but not literally day to day in the classes, like, looking at a syllabus. Yes, I did that and I handled that. And I ended up, when I got kicked out, got back in, I killed it and pretty much got like straight A's and B minuses maybe, I'm saying, the rest of the way through. But one of the biggest aspects about college for me was the networking and the relationships that I built while I was in school and while I was in this new city. And I learned how to network. And me coming from a city like Milwaukee, which is the most segregated city in the US, and then going up to Minneapolis, which is the cleanest city that I've ever lived in. But then also, I would say it's a predominantly white city, but campus was very diverse. Minnesota has the highest African population in the US next to New York. Me going to college with folks that was from Florida, folks that was from Texas, all different types of people. It just helped me to gain experiences of meeting and knowing different types of people from different walks of life, which helped to prepare me, my life that I live now, and having the experiences of living in LA, living in New York, now living in Atlanta. And I even took advantage of a study abroad program, and I went and lived in Mexico. I went and lived in Cuernavaca, Mexico for like 3 months and lived with a host family and did all of that. So I made sure to get every experience that I could get out of college, and from the good, the bad, and the ugly. I just feel like college isn't something that is a must for everybody, because school isn't for everybody. But I feel like college, some type of post-secondary education, is something that everyone should try to experience. So even if it's not a 4-year college, I feel like people should definitely take advantage of, taking like certification classes, even, going to get a trade. That's something that's real important. I'm actually going to do another episode about the importance of learning a trade and how moving forward, like in these next like 10 to 20 years, knowing a trade will have you rich because there are going to be so many jobs, and there are so many jobs like within different trades. So it's not just about going to a 4-year college, getting your bachelor's, getting your master's, things like that. But I do feel like, going to college, having that experience will strengthen you mentally, spiritually, and will just broaden your horizon. So, that's why I went to school. I'm happy with my decision. And I just wanted to share that because also, working in the music industry, something that my homie Big Zach told me. I remember, shout out to Big Zach, Atlanta legend. You don't know him, he do the intro on Greg Street radio show. But I remember Big Zach came into an office that I had, and I didn't have any plaques at the time, diploma up or anything. And he was like, Spitty, you gotta show people like all your accomplishments and what you've done. He was like, bruh, you've accomplished so much. He was like, man, you one of the few people I know that got a college education. And that really stuck with me. And I remember right after he said that, I went and ordered like 4 copies of my diploma so that I could have like one at my office, so I could have one at the house. I gave my mama one, you know what I mean? But making sure that I was celebrating myself and really, just celebrating like, the achievements that I made and everything. And so that was just something that within itself, like stood out to me because in the music industry, all of us, you don't have to have a degree to work in music or to work in entertainment. A lot of these creative jobs, some of my counterparts didn't go to college. I don't look at them a certain way and I don't judge them or anything like that. But I definitely just understand and respect that experience that I had, and I would recommend it to anybody. Don't be scared to take a chance, go to school. That's another thing that you should be able to get over the fear of. Step out and learn something. Like, we should always, be students of the game. Like, that's something about me. Like, I'm forever a student of the game and will remain one. That's real spit from your boy Spit. Yes, sir.